Why do people have to be this lonely? What's the point of it all? This quote by Haruki Murakami always makes me feel so sad, and yet so bonded to the rest of humanity in this yearning, this craving for connection. Loneliness is such a common but uncomfortable human emotion. It's the subjective experience in which being alone produces a feeling of desolation, and the experience really hurts. We are social animals, and we need to feel like we belong. Researchers have found that pain from loneliness and social rejection activates the same parts of the brain as physical pain. And you can even see this in our language. When we describe experiences of social pain, like social rejection, we often use expressions that describe physical sensations, like having a broken heart or feeling physically cut off from the world. In fact, this pattern is not unique to the English language and has been shown to exist across many different languages. So loneliness is not just in our head, it physically hurts. When it's fleeting, it's perfectly fine to feel lonely from time to time. Just like in the physical realm, you can sometimes get a little cut on your finger, and that's not the end of the world. And loneliness can actually be a way to process some feelings, to find your footing in the distance you notice with some people in your life, which can be difficult, but necessary. But when loneliness becomes a constant feeling, it can actually be harmful to your health. In fact, a review of the research literature suggests that loneliness increases the risk of mortality by 26%. And it's becoming a big problem. The rates of loneliness have doubled in the United States in the last 50 years only. You've probably heard scientists speak of the loneliness epidemic. And yet, being alone can sometimes feel pleasurable. A good book, some quiet time to yourself, just you and your thoughts, away from the hustle and bustle of daily work and social obligations. Why is it that being alone can lead to such dramatically different experiences? That's because being alone can result in either loneliness or solitude. And these two responses, while they share their basis in the same fundamental experience, have a completely different impact on your brain and, as a result, on your mental state. When you experience loneliness, the anterior cingulate cortex becomes more active. This region is associated with registering pain, and its activation when you feel lonely mirrors the patterns that we see during physical pain, which shows the profound emotional impact of feeling socially isolated. On the other hand, when you experience solitude, the default mode network becomes more active. This network is involved in mind-wandering, introspection, and self-awareness, which allows for more creativity and which highlights the nurturing, restorative benefits of solitude. So solitude is just a state of being alone. It doesn't have any negative feelings attached to it. It can be neutral, but it can also be enjoyable. In contrast, loneliness is a sense of unwanted isolation, which triggers actual pain. What's interesting is that the sense of unwanted isolation that defines loneliness can persist even when you are with other people. That's why knowing more people will not alleviate your feelings of loneliness. It has actually become a common trope, but a true one, to say that we're more connected but also lonelier than ever. So the difference between loneliness and solitude is not really about whether you're physically surrounded with people. It's how you perceive not being actively connecting with other people that makes all the difference in whether you will experience it as loneliness or as solitude. When you focus on the feeling of isolation from others and the world, then you fall into a spiral of negative thoughts. You experience loneliness. But when you appreciate it as a generative moment of self-discovery and reconnection with yourself, being alone can yield powerful insights and even support your mental health. In fact, research shows that solitude has lots of benefits. Solitude can lead to more meaningful relationships. I know it may sound paradoxical, but studies suggest that being able to feel comfortable on your own helps you become more comfortable when around others. Solitude also leads to better resilience. Studies show that your ability to tolerate alone time is linked to increased happiness, better stress management, and improved life satisfaction. Basically, learning how to enjoy spending time alone makes you happier and less anxious. Solitude can increase your creativity. Being in a private, secluded space allows you to be more creative. That's why artists, authors, and musicians seek solitude when they want to generate ideas and focus on their creative work. Solitude is also excellent for self-discovery. Researchers found that by spending time alone and taking a moment for self-reflection to think about your dreams and your worries and your relationships, you can create space to define and confirm your identity with less influence from other people. And finally, solitude can increase your productivity. Studies show that spending time alone makes you more productive. It probably already intuitively makes sense to you, but many people work better when they are on their own compared to when working in a busy and noisy office. But of course, to be productive, they need to enjoy the solitude instead of suffering from the loneliness of not being surrounded with colleagues. In the end, it all boils down to being intentional in the way we approach our relationship to being alone. Loneliness is time alone that we didn't choose and therefore we don't appreciate. Solitude can be a mindful activity if you decide to dedicate time to it and approach it in a constructive manner. And if you find yourself in a moment of loneliness, you can proactively decide to transmute it into a moment of solitude. Put your phone away and immerse yourself in the present moment. Whether you tune into the emotion of isolation to try and understand it better, or maybe you try to actively think about interesting questions, or you could just let your mind wander. Being alone is also a great opportunity to read a book, to meditate, to go for a walk, to journal, or to learn a new skill. Dance in front of the mirror, play an instrument, or just take a nap. If you're not used to embracing solitude, this can feel uncomfortable at first, but learning to be alone with yourself can be one of the most powerful skills to unlock better creativity, better productivity, and better mental health. So, what's your relationship with being alone with yourself? Let me know in the comments, and if you like this video and want to learn more about how to make the most of your mind, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Squishy, squishy!